So I had a seizure today. I've been back from hospital about 2 hours ago. And from everything that people have told me, I've tried to piece together what happened. So I was sitting on a bench, was seen to start having a seizure, and a bunch of people came to look after me from a couple of shops and from the gym that I go to where I was outside. And they called for an ambulance, and they turned up, looked after me, and took me to hospital. So on the surface of things, everything's great. I was looked after, and the public did what they were supposed to do, and I was looked after, which is lovely. The other side of it is, for me, I've been going about my day, and the next thing I've woken up in hospital feeling like shit. They had to give me drugs to stop me having seizures, which wears you out anyway, and having the drugs, obviously it makes things a lot worse, stops the seizure, but makes recovery a lot harder. Then in hospital, I wasn't breathing too well, and so they put a tube up my nose, down my throat, which thought of that is just bloody disgusting, but hey, I suppose breathing is a little more important. So a tube up my nose and a bag over my face, giving me oxygen and basically helping me breathe, which is fun. So I woke up and I'm very confused. Takes a little bit of time to reorientate myself, and I instinctively try and be very polite and very friendly and joking about it, and hey, everything's cool, everything's fine. But on the inside, very sad and embarrassed and angry, and there's no real reason for being embarrassed, but I've been out in the world doing stuff with no recollection of it, and it's so weird, and being reliant on other people to keep you safe. And I try and be a very independent person, and so when I have the hope that I'm looked after, it feels like it takes that autonomy away from me somewhat. So that's the initial feeling, is I've been a burden on people. I've been a burden on the emergency services, and there I am in hospital being a burden to them as well. So I make my way home, and practicalities, and I'll get in and I'll feed the cat and all the just normal life stuff. But I'm currently feeling like shit, both physically and mentally. Um, I I'm so frustrated by having to deal with this all the time, and every day you wake up and you don't know if that's going to be a day that you see through all the way to bedtime with no incidents, or if it's going to be a day that you're going to have a seizure. And having no control over that fucking bullshit. And you constantly feel like you're letting other people down and letting yourself down. Like, this isn't the person that I planned to be. I would have loved to have an awesome career and a brilliant house and 100 friendships in it, and all the normal stuff that people want. And I can't do it. This isn't who I wanted to be. Nobody would plan to be this. But this is the person that I am, and I can't do anything about it. And not being able to do all the things that people do without thinking about it can make you feel less like a person. After a seizure, my emotions are so raw and so on the surface. I normally keep all that locked in. People don't want to hear about how shit you feel when it's something that happens all the time. You know, if it was one seizure in my life, I just had one, it'd be this big story of like, wow, wasn't that awful? Like, had this seizure, and everyone would be, my God, that's intense. But I have them all the time, and so it's boring. You know, these apparently huge things happen to me all the time, and it's boring and debilitating and shit. Just ultimately, it's shit. So currently, I'm beating myself up for not being capable and being less than, just being less than. And people do understand, and people do sympathize, and people do want to help you, and they do encourage you, but they don't know the disorder from the inside. And even other people who have disorders, they obviously can't know your specific disorder. Like Steve, he's fucked up. He's got all his own shit. And I get it. I can get the emotions around it, but I don't know what it's like for him. I don't know what every day he wakes up feeling like. And we can give each other information about it, but you just don't know it. And that's basically why I'm talking now, is to, normally I would have locked myself away from everyone. But I kind of felt that we're doing this podcast, and we laugh and we joke and we talk about the silly stuff and a little bit of, you know, the practical side of things, but the emotions aren't as intense as they are when you're in the middle of an episode, or, you know, the fallout from an episode. Currently, I'm feeling, you know, the effects from the seizure itself, which is exhausting. I'm feeling the effects of the drugs, which is exhausting. I'm feeling the effects of other people breathing for me, which is exhausting. And so that's all bad. But I know the next 24 hours is really hard, because my physically and mentally, I'm going to be screwed. And yet I have to do twice as much as I would normally, because I know I feel useless. And so by throwing myself back into doing everything, it makes me feel like I've achieved something, and I'm not useless. And I can kind of prove myself to myself and to other people that I do have a worth and I do have value. But right now, I can't see what that worth or what that value is. I don't know what I bring to the world that makes it worth carrying on. And that sounds really dramatic. And so many people have that feeling of, like, what's the point? And it's hard to carry on. And we've all got completely valid reasons, or even no reasons, to feel like that. And it's a very human thing to think. But we're not allowed to say it. We're not allowed to admit it. But it's tough shit. That is how I feel at times. I won't do anything about that. I won't do anything to, I will continue. I won't give up. But every now and again, I want to, but I won't. And that's one of the reasons why me and Steve wanted to do the podcast in the first place, is that it's a place where you're safe to admit how hard things are and joke about them, and not have that taboo, and let it be out there in the world. And if other people listen to this and they feel the same for whatever reason, and like I say, even for no reason, people can be depressed and feel awful for no reason at all. It's just what humans do. But having a space where you can admit that, and you can talk it through, and you can laugh and joke, I think it helps keep the sanity. you feel less alone. It's possibly a little bit more manageable than it would be if it was all just inside your head. It kind of takes the sting and the power out of those negative thoughts. I have literally no advice to give to anyone who's feeling dark, because, as I said at the start, nobody can understand what it's like to be inside a disorder or inside a thought process. The only thing that I know, advice-wise, the only thing I know is what helps me. And what helps me is thinking about all the things that I do that are awesome, because I do stuff that's awesome. You know, I'm not just sitting in my lounge. I'm getting out there in the world, and as much as I can, I'm doing stuff. And it's at the detriment to me. I should sit still and I should not do stuff, but I can't. I can't be that person. So my personal way of staying vaguely strong is to try and look at what I have done and what I want to do and what I'm capable of doing, and focus on that. Alongside with that, I have to let myself feel shit. I know the next 24 hours is going to be really hard, and I have to allow myself to live with the mental and physical destruction, for want of a better word, because it's what it feels like. I feel destroyed, but I have to let myself have that time, because that's vital for me to carry on the next day and the next day until the next seizure hits. And at that point, the cycle starts again. And I have no choice in that. This is very self-indulgent, me talking like this, but normally I will shut the world out when I'm feeling like this, when I get home from another incident. But I thought, as we're doing the podcast, why not catch it and subject other people to the rubbishness that goes on so regularly? If anyone listens to this and feels a little bit better that other people are having those same shitty situations, and that the world fucking sucks, and feels that almost so hard done by it, like, why me? I wouldn't wish this on anybody, but I wish I didn't have to deal with it either.